Action.
Hi everyone, my name is Adonal Foyle and welcome to the Poetry Corner. Here we're going to talk about my love for poetry, why poetry plays such a significant role in my life, and most of all just to really engage with you guys about the love that I share for poetry, and hopefully many of you share as well. So come along for the ride. So poetry has always been a way for me to tell a story that I didn't want to tell in an essay. So poetry is about really taking your most deep thoughts and condensing it in a way that is accessible to people. Poetry, for me, poetry was an accident. I was in high school, I was in an AP class, and my professor at the time, my teacher told me, he said, let's write a poem. And I've never written a poem before, and I thought, okay, this is an interesting challenge. And in doing that, in writing that poem, I think I discover a love for the English language, a love that was beyond how you express yourself in normal life. It was something different. It was something more controlled. I always believe as a player, as a basketball player, you have this rage when you play, and that is very informative. But poetry is about being restrained. It's about being disciplined. The words, the language, the choices you use, it's different. So I felt that I instantly fell in love with it because I thought it was more about the pursuit of a truth, of your truth, in as limited amount of words as you possibly can, and that was somehow, I think, turn on the faucet in my mind and really created a love for poetry. I would say that poetry became part of my life in high school, and when I got to the university, when I got to Colgate, Professor Peter Balakian was my poetry professor, and he, I think, taught me how to discipline myself when I write, about the choices we use. It's about finding the kernel of truth in what it is you're trying to say. And I think he took it to another level where I felt like I wasn't writing trying to find poetry, but poetry was becoming a part of how I express myself. It became a part of my self-expression, part of the repertoire of things that I use in order to define who I was as a person. Poetry, I have this kind of love-hate relationship with poetry, because poetry, it allows you to see the beauty that is around you, but it's able to take pain and really mirror it into art. You have a feeling, an emotion that may have plagued you for most of your life, and poetry gives you a different way to look at it. It almost like it captures and surrounds your pain in a few lines, and your job, I think, as a poet is to convey that message to the public. And so for me, poetry makes me feel happy, and it can make me feel angry, and it can make me feel enlightened, because I think that the ability of a basketball player or football player, where he understands that there is challenges in his life, and when he can take those challenges and force them into this powerful tool that enable his genius and the feel or in the coat, that's the true mirror. When you can control that emotion and you could unleash it at the time of your choosing, is what truly makes an athlete exceptional.
So would you say poetry is more like a form of art or like a message?
I think poetry has the ability to be art, and I think it has the ability to send a message. I think when you think about the intent of the speaker, if you think about the position of the speaker, and you think about what it is you're trying to convey, you can convey a message that, hey, this is how I see the world. You can convey the art and the beauty of language. You're able to do, I think, both those things simultaneously, depending on what it is you are trying to convey to your audience.
This is a new side of us that the public probably doesn't know about you. So why did you decide to share your poetry with the public now?
Well, I think poetry has been something that is intensely personal thing for me. It's the way that I deal with a lot of issues in my life. It has been the signal of many different phases in my life. When my grandmother passed away, I wrote a poem for her. When my friends get married, I write a poem or write poetry for them. And when I retired from the NBA, it was my first, public poem. I wrote a poem to mark the occasion, and I felt that, as a retired athlete, that part of the next phase is to hope that my love of poetry will be able to inspire the next poet, the next athlete poet. I think what we do athletically is poetry, and I think the ability to express yourself in more than one medium and more than one forum is what makes us truly special. After I retired and did so writing a poem, and a few years later, Kobe retired, and again he wrote a poem to mark the occasion. I think it says so much more about who we are as athletes. It's about showing that we are very much the same as everybody else, and that there are many different ways we can tell our story and tell our stories, and in doing so, hopefully we unleash the next generation and give them the freedom to really express themselves in whatever manner they feel like doing so. So the cool thing is that I've been writing poetry, as I said, since in high school, and I finally decided to put all of my work together in a book called When the Ball is Laid to Rest. And I think what was cool about it is going back and reading some of the stuff that I've written over the years, and it was a really interesting discovery about who I am and who I was and who I hope to become. It was really prose and poetry told the story of where I've been and where I want to go, and so I was really excited to kind of take some of those poems and really share it with a wider audience, and I hope everybody love it. I hope they appreciate it. I hope they appreciate the sincere attempt to expose really unfamiliar part of my life, and I hope they embrace it. But more than that, I just hope they enjoy it, and I hope that it inspire other people to write as well. Because I think at the end of the day, when we find different ways of self-expression, I think we're better for it. So I think the cool thing is I want this to be a journey. So I want your feedback. I want you to engage my book. I want you to be honest. I want you to share your poems that you have written over the years. I want you to explore writing poetry. And I think more than that is that stay tuned. We will let you know when the next project is coming up. So guys, thank you so much for listening. I can't wait to join you guys in this extraordinary ride through poetry and prose, and I think you really enjoyed it. So thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you soon.